My mom is being evicted from the apartment she's lived in for 38 years. Actually, 41 years if you include the time we lived in the corner unit before moving to this one, but 38 in the one she's being evicted from. I grew up in these apartments. The landlord all that time lived in the Bay Area, and I don't think he ever even saw the place, but he appreciated that she paid her rent on time and never asked for anything. She was what landlords call a good tenant. So for 38 years, he barely raised her rent. In fact, all 5 tenants who live in the duplexes pay below market rent, and that's what made them a target. A few months ago, the landlord died, and his family listed the apartment complex for sale. One sentence in the listing really caught my attention. Rents are low from long-term tenancy, leading to great value-add opportunity. And you see this sort of thing on many property listings these days, and what it boils down to is realtors alerting buyers to properties with tenants who are, for one reason or another, paying reasonable rents. They see an opportunity there. To turn a profit, all they have to do is jack those rates up. But rents in California can't be raised more than 10% each year, and that ought to protect tenants like my mom. But what it really does, for predatory buyers, is incentivize their getting rid of her altogether. So this is the guy that bought the complex, well, when he was in high school. But he paid such an inflated price that it would take him 3 years raising rents at the maximum allowable rate to make rents exceed his mortgage payment. But if he could simply eliminate the tenants and immediately raise all 4 rents to the median rental price in the area, $1,400, he'd make $2,600 profit per month on top of having his mortgage paid. And that's the great value-add opportunity the realtors were selling. They took him to the apartments for a walkthrough, into my 75-year-old mom's home, with all its knickknacks that she's accumulated over the course of 38 years. They showed him my 76-year-old Aunt Susie's home, showed him Tony's and Dakota and Jessica's homes, the nice people who live in the other 2 units, and basically said, if you evict all these people, imagine how profitable these rentals could be. It's astonishing what level of chaos and misery some people are willing to inflict for a 3% commission. As soon as the deal closed, all the tenants received 60-day eviction notices. He's required by law to give them 60 days because all the tenants are long-term and in good standing. That's why it's called a no-fault eviction, because they're being thrown out through no fault of their own. But by law, no-fault evictions are only allowed in very specific cases. 1, if the owner or a family member is going to move into the unit, which of course he doesn't want to do because it would only clear 1 unit, whereas he wants to raise rents on all 4. 2, if the property is going to be removed from the rental market, which obviously he doesn't want to do either because he needs to start collecting rent as soon as possible. Or 3, if he intends to demolish or substantially remodel the property, and this is what he's going with. The eviction notice states that all 4 households must vacate because the premises need to be remodeled. And this is such a common ploy by landlords that there's a name for it, renoviction. In many cases, extensive remodeling is never done, and after making minor cosmetic repairs, the apartments simply reappear on the market with sharply higher rents, which is completely illegal, but the law too often goes unenforced. In the case of my mom's complex, only my mom's apartment hasn't been updated, owing to the fact that she's occupied it for 38 years and always waived her right to upgrades, which, paradoxically, was what made her a good tenant in the eyes of the previous landlord. Now, some people will say that this is the free market, baby. The landlord is entitled to do whatever he wants with the property, and I guess that's how this landlord and these realtors and this lawyer think about it. Free market, free to hurt whomever they please, free to throw people into the street to make a little more profit for themselves, free even to flout the law that says you cannot evict families simply to raise the rent on their units. The eviction notice even has the nerve to imply that the landlord is opting to waive the last month's rent, as if from generosity, when the law requires that it be waived in no-fault evictions to cover relocation expenses. In San Francisco, relocation expenses can be as high as $22,000, but there are no such tenant protections in Northern California, and waiving a month of rent for people who are being evicted precisely because their rent is so low is, of course, no help at all. So this guy expects that his letter, coming from a lawyer, is going to scare the tenants, and they're just going to walk away. But we are going to challenge the eviction. We're sending certified letters requesting that he provide evidence of this substantial remodel. permits, architectural drawings, contractor work plans, or invoices for the remodeling work. And we suspect that, especially in the case of the 3 units that have already been updated, he will not be able to demonstrate that he's planned renovations sufficient to require the tenants to vacate. We're hopeful, but it's an uphill battle, and landlords have all the advantages that their wealth and the law, which is written by the real estate lobby, provides. What I want everyone watching this to take away is that we have to think about real estate investment differently, because one person's great value add opportunity is another person's home. Your growing investment portfolio has human costs. Luckily, my mom and aunt have each other. They have family to help them. But what about the people who are evicted who don't have anywhere to go? There used to be this really friendly old guy named Ray who lived in a studio across the street from my mom's duplex until he got rent-evicted a few years back. And because he was disabled and didn't know where in the world he was going to find comparable rent, he took an overdose of his meds and committed suicide. My mom and I will figure something out. She just finished chemo and she's tough as hell. She raised me by herself, and she was a good neighbor who paid her rent for 38 years doing odd jobs and cleaning houses. It will never fail to amaze me that house cleaners don't get any respect, but landlords and realtors and lawyers do. A house cleaner's money, at least, is honest. It may not add up to much. It'll never cover the down payment of a property, but it was earned by actual labor, honest labor, and didn't come at the expense of someone else's suffering. A house cleaner's home, be it ever so humble, was never paid for by kicking other people out of theirs.